Swanigan is a certified professional co-active coach and co-parent who founded X's and Babies to uplift and up-level co-parenting. That's cool language. She uses coaching and workshops and media and podcasts and just a really super high energy gal. She is a Seattle native, a proud boy mom, which she'll probably talk more about, and is amicably co-parenting with her son's father and stepmom, working hard to shift the narrative and culture of co-parenting. And we're really thrilled to have her with us. And she's going to make you work for this topic. So don't sit back and relax, lean in, and welcome to this conversation. And Sydney, you are on. I'm going to.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Anne, and Dieter, and everyone for being here. Let me
Oh,
get,
can I say one
oh,
quick thing while you're
yeah,
getting your
please,
slides up and going?
please.
If you could please introduce yourself in the chat with just a line about what brings you to this table. If you're a father who is not practicing in the field, if you are practicing in the field, whatever you want to share, but that helps us understand the audience a little bit better. And then while Sydney's talking, we'll have a few points of break and interaction. But if you could put your questions in the chat, I'll monitor those and get those to her. So go ahead and introduce yourself if you would, please. And then what's your role in fatherhood? What brings you to this table? Thanks. Okay, now you're set and I'm set. Take it away.
Thank you so much. That was very thorough. And if you could also share if you're co-parenting, or if you are witnessing co-parenting up close, I'd really be curious to hear that. But I'm Sydney Swanigan. I am so excited to be with you all today. I love what this program is about. Through coming into the space of learning about co-parenting, I realized that there are definitely a lot of gaps in terms of the resources and support that's there for fathers. And just they're not treated the same way through the system and such. So I do love the work that's being done here, and I'm very grateful to be here. I'm definitely an ally of fathers for sure, and obviously just children. And so taking a step back, I think Anne might have said some of these things, but I am a certified coach. I went and got certified because I saw that there were so many gaps with what folks needed in terms of co-parenting. And I'm very passionate about this topic, not only because I'm a co-parent, but because I know the impact it has on our entire community. I remember growing up, it took me a while to like my adulthood to really realize it, but I've been negatively impacted by my aunts and uncles not co-parenting well. I didn't even get to see cousins for years. And so everyone's impacted, I would believe, by co-parenting. And so it's just really important to me to continue to help folks. But yes, I have a 10-year-old son, Dior. I've been co-parenting since 2017. Love Seattle. Been here. We have 3 generations of Seattleites, 3 to 4, if you include my son. Love skiing, but I haven't gotten out there. Please put in the chat if you've been out on the slopes this year at all. I'm a little jealous. But yeah, who doesn't love traveling? I love traveling, Afrobeats music, and things like that. And yes, I started X's and Babies. That is the business I started to help co-parents. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that on the next page. But that is my focus right now, is growing that business, helping more families to have more fulfilling parenting experiences. And then I also work at Microsoft as a senior business program manager in the gaming compliance division. So I stay busy, as Anne said, lots of energy there to make sure I'm doing all that I need to do. As far as X's and Babies, this started actually years ago with my ex and I, my co-parents having a podcast. It was called Two X's and a Baby, long time ago. And it was just a fun thing to do. But then we realized, oh my gosh, there's so much need. There are people from all walks of life, different incomes, different races, different sexual orientations had been impacted by co-parenting. And yet there wasn't a lot of information on how to do it. And that felt relatable. And so that's where I, took the next step and created a business and created a mission, which is to uplift and up-level co-parents. And up-level really, I mean, I'm sure many of you understand what that means, but just training. Giving people the resources that they need to be successful. I do feel like it's any other problem we have to solve in our world. where you just need intentionality and resources and support and community to make some change there. So we offer certified coaching workshops like today. We have a podcast. Please check it out with the visual element on YouTube, and then social events and so much more. Now, like I said, I'm a coach, and one of the things that I do with my clients is we design our alliance. And so that really means like, let's make sure we're grounded around some principles so that we can get the most out of this session and walk away feeling good about what's happened during the session. And I know you all know this, but let's make sure to be respectful. There's going to be a lot of perspectives being shared. I want people to feel comfortable to share. This is very personal for a lot of folks, right? Even taboo in some cases. So please open up, please share. This is meant to be a judgment-free zone. Please be present. If you have to like close out of, put your phone on silent, close out of things, please be present and get that so that you can get the most out of this for yourself. And then please speak up. Let me know if there's something you need. Let the group know if there's something you need in terms of someone like speaking louder or maybe being more thoughtful with language and things like that. Just let us know. This is your time too. And yes, does everyone agree to this? All right, thank you. And feel free to throw emojis and use the reactions and such. And just feel free to stay engaged in the chat. I'll try to take a look over there every time I get the chance. All right. I'm sure, thank you for saying yes. I know I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you've witnessed it, but there's a lot of children impacted by divorce and separation. I mean, by the age of
They're the biggest.
by the age, hi Annette, you're off mute. Okay, there you go. By the age of 9, more than 1 in 5 children experience, we'll say, parental breakup. That's a lot of kids, and that's just by 9 years old, right? There's a lot more childhood going on after 9. And so for me, what that meant is that there's a lot of opportunity to support folks going through this, and it just emboldens me even more to support these families. There's 3 types of code. So we're going to go over some like 101, right? That's the point of today. And then we'll go into some principles and such. And like, again, as Anne said, there'll be time for breakouts and for you to, go get water, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. But yeah, there's 3 types of co-parenting. The first one, high conflict co-parenting, I would argue is not even co-parenting, but usually that's the one I tend to see a little bit more, which is, there's maybe some emotional abuse involved. There's contention a lot of the time. Maybe they can even get through a conversation without blowing up. And so those are very challenging experiences for sure. And then we have parallel parenting, which tends to be more common, where it's, hey, this is my house. This is what we do in my house. Whatever you do in your house is what you do in your house, and that's that. They're not necessarily co-ing in the parenting part. Whereas then you have the last one, which is collaborative co-parenting, which is where you're really maybe aligning on certain things across household. Maybe you're aligning on values for your child. Maybe you're aligning on the bedtimes, things like that, snacks, I don't know, diets, things like that for your children. And so those are the 3 types. Now I'll say a lot of what I'm going to share is probably going to be more helpful to folks who are in more the collaborative and the parallel parenting, people who might have more of a capacity and willingness to grow and make some behavioral changes. But the high conflict, usually the things that I'm going to share today won't really impact them because it's just a capacity issue, maybe some mental health things going on, willingness to participate, things like that. They might not get a lot out of something like this. So this is the interactive part. If folks want to put in the chat, or if maybe we can take 2 or 3 people coming off mute, but why is co-parenting so hard? I just want to get a sense of what you guys have noticed.
Love makes you stupid.
Okay, yep. Love makes us stupid. Yep, different parenting styles for sure.
They're holding on to the relationship that you 2 had together rather than the child's relationship that you guys need to focus on.
Yep.
I
Laura,
would like to add that also maybe the ego can get into the mix.
that's really hard. Yes, I see that a lot for sure. Laura, did you want to say
Anytime,
something? Oh, go ahead, Thomas.
anytime you got two separate lives, as in, you just got divorced, you got two separate lives there and you're going different directions. And it's going to be hard, coming together for one common cause, and that's taking care of the kids.
Yes, yes, these are all really great. There's some really good responses in the chat too. Different family values, different cultures. We'll pause there on the coming off mute. So thank you for those who shared. Yeah, there's many factors that make co-parenting so hard. One of them is our environment. We don't have a lot of examples and things in the media around how to get along after you've broken up. And there's usually, I think our culture or like our society really thinks of things very much as a binary, right? Like either you're with me or you're not with me, right? There's no room in between for figuring out, more nuance in terms of how we interact after a breakup. The causes of breakups can be hard for the co-parenting, right? If you're struggling with communication, guess what? You got more communication to do after the breakup when you're co-parenting. If you're having trouble with finances and other things, usually the things that led to the breakup are what are going to make the co-parenting hard as well. Just because you've moved on romantically doesn't mean you can just avoid some of these other things you need to navigate the co-parenting. And then feelings of shame and failure. For sure. Most of us don't operate at our best when we're feeling shame or if we're feeling failure. We've gotten, for those who decide to get married, they've had all these family members and people rooting for them, hopefully, and then it didn't last, right? And I think we have this idea that I think we forget that change is a part of life. Who you are, maybe the start of that relationship is not necessarily who you're going to be in the next 30 years. You might have different needs, but we have this idea that it's not okay to change in that regard when it comes to your relationship. And I think just doesn't give a lot of space for who we are as humans, which in the world, we see change in every aspect of our world. So I think that can be really challenging. And again, back to examples, there's not a lot of examples, but we'll definitely have more opportunity to talk about the reasons why. And family, extended family for sure, that's a toughie. You can have like that mother-in-law saying, get full custody, I want to see my grandbaby during Christmas. And so that's not helping with the co-parenting at all, and it's coming from a very selfish place. And I see your hands up. Did you want to share? Is it okay if you actually keep that question and hold on to it?
Oh, it's just a statement.
Okay, go for it. Why not?
I was just gonna say, my mom, before she got too sick, she was a divorce lawyer, and she would literally fire her clients when they used their children as weapons to the divorce.
Thank you for sharing that.
Good for
Yeah.
her. So can I just pop in here too, Sydney, because one of the other things that's come through in the chat that we also deal with quite a bit is that we're going through legal systems that have winners and losers, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why we're excited about this collaborative law session
Mhm.
next month. But a lot of families talk about, we had it all together until we lawyered up and got in court, and then it all, went south. And there is just a lot of hardwired bias in the family court system that creates a lot of stress and upset and differences in power that set up for really difficult co-parenting. So I just want to make sure we call that one out because I think that is pretty unique to dad's situations.
Absolutely. I'm really glad someone called that out because that is definitely a problem that I hope to help do my part in trying to shift the needle on. I can share an example that I've had two parents come to me. They're married, and they knew that they want to get a divorce, but they came to get co-parent coaching with me first before getting lawyers, before taking that next step. And that really impacted how they went through their divorce. By the end of our coaching sessions, they saw themselves as a team, still getting divorced, but like as a team, looking out for their child, right? And so by the time they had lawyers who were trying to take that, like, let's find dirt for this on this person or taking that adversarial approach, they were able to kind of feel confident in saying, hey, that's not what we're doing here. And so, yes, I agree. It can be very challenging. And yeah, court has not helped at all in a lot of ways. But yes, we will be talking about collaborative divorce in the next section, which I do think honors a more collaborative co-parenting experience after the divorce. And then I want to take this time to do a breakout session. It looks like there are definitely some co-parents here, people who witness co-parenting. We'll have 5 people to group, and I want you to answer these questions. How would you describe your co-parenting style, or what style do you see most, right? And then also, what are some barriers you see with co-parenting, which we've already kind of shared. But you'll have about 7 minutes. I would like everyone to share in the group, and then we'll come back and do a quick little debrief and continue on with the session. All right, and please share.
Hi, this is Dieter. It looks like a few of you haven't jumped into those rooms. Go ahead and click on that and jump in if you would, please. If you're having difficulties, let me know. Hi, you having a hard time getting in there or something going on?
Me?
Yeah.
I was invited to a breakout room that was just me. There was no one else in there.
Oh, that's not good. Let me move you to a different one. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Zoom's doing weird stuff. Sorry. Anyone else having that difficulty? Let me know and I'll drop you into a different room. Let me know if any of you need some help. It looks like you're choosing not to go in, and that's okay. We're just about done. So, thanks, Anna.
Hey, dude.
Hey, Juan. Good to see you, man. Gotta
Yes, sir.
go.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for engaging. Now everything's all moved around. But oh, there we go. All right. Can we have like 3 people from a different group jump in and share some takeaways? Feel free to use the chat as well if you're someone who likes the chat.
Yeah, I would love to share that one thing I'm seeing, and I received this kind of message of wisdom not too long ago in a training, but variation is the norm. Basically, there is no norm, right? Everybody is going through something different. Everyone is coming from a different place, and we all have our different experiences. And that was just very clear to me.
I think I saw Juan's hand up too. Hi, Juan.
Hi. Learning to control emotions, you know what I mean, can help parent better. You know, your emotions are so strained about what's going on. Like I said earlier, rather than focusing on the child's needs, you know, we're so controlled about what we want. I want this, I want that. You can't give this, I'm not giving in. But what's best for that child?
I would say in our room, which was room 12, Mr. Adams and Miss Adams brought up a couple of really good points about being flexible and being available to either like be a structure or to be putty. And the other person in our room, I think it was Laura, she said that her and her other co-parent, they actually had great communication. So things were light in that regard. So I thought that was a nice mix to see in our room.
Thank you all for sharing. Yeah, I heard some really great, comments in our group as well. And yeah, there's many things that can make it challenging. And I'm hoping that some of the things we take away today will help those who are still co-parenting. We had some folks who are kind of, their kids have left the nest, but I'm hoping that, some of the things that we share today, you guys can take and make some changes in your co-parenting dynamic, or offer that to friends and family who might be co-parenting at this time. For sure. Let's see.
I think the strength of being a step parent and acknowledging when to step back, I think that was the most powerful, beautiful thing I've heard today.
Thank you.
Shout out that.
Great call out. Yes, taking accountability and apologizing. And yeah, I loved hearing that in our group as well. Okay, y'all can still see my screen, right? 6 steps for a healthy co-parenting. No, can't see that. Okay, cool.
Got to reshare it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good to know. I was like, why is this acting so weird? Okay. Cool. We are back at it. Oh, excellent. Okay. Pull the chat up again so I can see as you guys make comments. Awesome. Okay. So again, this is a disclaimer, right? This guidance is only going to work for some families, right? These are families who have co-parents who are willing to change. They have the capacity, the mental capacity to make some shifts. This might not work for all families, especially if there are, things like maybe abuse, or emotional immaturity and things like that. But my prayer for you all is that you can take something away to chip away and to leverage to make some change. But these are steps that I share with any and everyone, including my clients, if I'm talking about co-parenting. These are things I do for my own co-parenting, right? So the first thing is cleaning that slate. There's a lot, we were talking about the emotion, right? There's so much emotion with the breakup, what drove the breakup, the fact that you're breaking up, you're feeling like a failure. All these people now in your world know that the relationship didn't work out. Or maybe you weren't even intending to be in a relationship and you got pregnant, right? And so there's that scenario as well. So that could make someone feel, unfortunately, because of our society, make them feel like a failure. And when you hold on to that, right, that's not going to do us any good. We can't be our best selves. We can't team up with our co-parent when we're feeling those things. And then forgiving yourself, for sure. Forgiving yourself and forgiving the other person when you're ready. There's things that you can look up to see how you can get to that point of forgiveness, but definitely that can help with cleaning the slate, and then throwing away old ideas of co-parenting. I remember when I was going to start, when we're going to go into a meeting with my co-parent and his new girlfriend, who's now my son's stepmom. And that was the first thing I said, like, let's throw away everything we know about baby mama, baby daddy drama. Like, let's start our own thing that works for us. And that brings me to the next thing, which is being willing to start over. If that means you've got to like twirl around in a circle, or like, I don't know, go to the spa, I don't know, whatever it takes for you to feel, and also just honor this idea of starting over in how you show up as a co-parent, starting over in how you see that co-parent, and how you interact. But whatever it takes for you to like feel like that's a real thing. In a workbook that I'll be sharing later this month, there's literally like a picture of a red button in the workbook, and I'm like, actually press the page, like actually press the screen, because there's something about that, or there's something that can help us reshift our mind, and especially when we take a physical action to own that. And again, feel free to use the chat if things are coming up for you. And then the second one is really have a vision. Like, what kind of adult are we raising, right? They're not going to stay kids forever. What kind of adult are we raising? What is the vision we have for their life? What are the values we want to instill within them? And that can be a really fun exercise, because that can be the part that aligns us a little bit more. Instead of like going right in. Boundaries are important, but sometimes when we talk about boundaries, people can feel a little contention. But vision, what we want our kid to be happy, we want them to be healthy. A lot of the time that can get co-parents excited and feeling a little bit of team morale in a sense. But also this should be your North Star. You should be leveraging this vision that you have every time you guys are having a disagreement, or you're having a fight, and you're like, okay, is this going to matter in 20 years when our kid is an adult? Does this matter when it comes to the vision that we outline? So it can be something you can keep coming back to when you find yourselves in these moments where you're just stuck and you can't get out of the argument. And you're like, oh, wait, this doesn't even matter for the values, right? This thing that we're arguing about has nothing to do with that. Maybe there's another way we can get around this. So anyways, I will share with you the values that we came up with for Dior. And obviously he's going to grow up into his own person, so he gets to decide what really fits for him, but we're going to get him off to a good start. And so, you know, me and my son and my son's, me, my ex, my co-parent, and his partner, who's my son's stepmom, we sat together and actually created this together. We want him to be independent. Dior is my son again. We want him to be independent. We want him to be healthy. We want him to learn and have a great education, financial literacy, empathy, right? Love for others. We want him to, they put this one, and I was like, fine, but they want him to have swag, you know, they want him to be presentable, which I get the importance of that. But I was like, okay, you guys can have that one. Being responsible. I'm going to read them out because I do feel like these are really solid, and could give you guys some examples of values if you were to decide to take this step. But we want him to, you know, his father added this, right? I want his father to feel empowered in this exercise. And even if I don't always align with it, I'm like, okay, I get it and I can support this as a parent. But Black male leadership, you know, he wants our son to have value around that and be get the learnings he needs and have that pride, right? And then love of identity, self-love, self-awareness, family, and eclectic. We want him to be well-rounded. And again, just how we did this exercise was very much like, okay, this is for the heart. This is at the heart of this. This is for our son. This is for Dior. And also honoring that their perspective, especially his father, you know, I want to honor how he's participating in that. And even if I don't exactly always get what he's offering, or that doesn't resonate with me, he's important in this moment, right? And this is important for him to feel connected with the values that we're sharing with our son and trying to instill within him. And so just think about how you're even having this conversation and making sure it's something that feels good for everyone and everyone feels included. How did we align with the values? So there are times where, like for me, swag, like that's not the most important thing to me for my son. But I'm willing to empathize with why that would be important. And, you know, there's some things in there that they might have not cared about. Like I added eclectic and being well-rounded. I think it was a little bit of a compromise. And at the end of the day, taking myself out of it just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it wouldn't be something valuable to our son. Like really thinking about my son at the heart of it can be helpful. And then if you don't align on some things, that's totally fine. It is unrealistic to think we're going to all be on the same page about everything. It doesn't matter if you're married or not. You're going to have different parenting styles. You're going to have different ways of thinking about life. That's kind of the beauty of it sometimes, right? We all have different perspectives. And what I tell parents when they're finding that moment of like, oh my God, like he's learning this here but he's learning this there, right? And this doesn't line up. I didn't have this vision for him. I will say the thing that gives me comfort is my son will get a well-rounded, right? That's a value, well-rounded experience. He's learning about Islam at his father's house. His father is Muslim. I'm more spiritual with a Christian foundation, right? And so I could be like, oh my God, he's going to be so confused and get really upset and frustrated. But at the end of the day, I actually see it as a beautiful thing. I love that my son is learning about different faiths. I love, and for me, that's gearing him up for a world where there's way more perspectives than these two households even, right? I want him to be able to learn these different perspectives and then, go with the one that works best with him. So it's really good, I think, when our kids have different perspectives across households because they're getting that first exposure to differences. And hey, it's not bad to have different opinions, doesn't have to be anyways. We can still find a way through. Right. And then the third one is my favorite, having principles to live by. Now, I'm not saying anything novel right here. Like you've seen these things before. When you've been on a team before, you're on a team now probably, either whether it's professional, or maybe you played sports growing up or something like that, or in school you were on little project teams to finish a science project, what have you. We've all been in teams where you have to be really thoughtful about the culture, especially, I'm in corporate America. I've been in activities where it's like team building experiences, team building exercises. And that's because there's an acknowledgement of how we need to be really intentional about how we're going to come together. Because if we don't put thought into it, we're just going to be reactive, right? So that's the purpose of this, is kind of getting ahead of some of the things that we know will probably cause contention. So a plan for interactions and problem solving, sharing your wishes and boundaries for your team culture. I hope you guys are picking up this theme of team. I really want y'all to see yourselves as a team. And mind you, you don't have to like everyone on your team. You might not ever want to see some people on your team most of the time until you have to come together for the work, right? But you can still get things done together. You can still reach the goals, which is raising a happy whole child, right? So I just want to kind of orient you around that framework because I find it to be really helpful. Even if you're like, I hate their guts, you can still have a successful team outcome, even if you don't like that team member. And again, designing this idea of taking control, not being reactive, not falling into old habits, but let's put the power back into this dynamic, and be thoughtful and intentional about how we're going to go about co-parenting. So I'll give you some examples because I don't know about you, but I hate when people just give all this theory and nothing I can actually take away.
Hey, Sydney, before you go there,
Yes.
can we go back to the values for just one sec?
Yes.
Hold that thought. Talk a little bit more about those values that can be very emotional and very powerful in how you might talk to kids about the differences between the two homes. And the example that Gregory is bringing up is spirituality. If you have one home, that has a stronger belief and that is their grounding, and one that does not, how do you think about or talk about that to kids? Because that is the big part, right? It's how we honor one another in the way we parent when we have differences. And I think that maybe could be unpacked a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And yes, actually, Gregory, thank you. I will add that to the list of values. I'll consult with my co-parenting team, but that is a great observation. We are missing that, yet it is a value of ours for sure. Okay, I'm gonna first say I'm not a child psychologist or therapist. So I'm gonna share my perspective, but please consult with an expert in that regard. But what I have found to be helpful is honoring that my son is a part of, he's a, you know, a product of his father, right? And he's a product of me. So thinking that I have all the right answers and imposing that upon my child really can be a deterrent from what he really needs, right? So for example, I was talking to a client the other day. She's like, our daughter needs structure. She needs routine. She needs routine. I was like, and her father doesn't do routine. I was like, you know that she comes from her father too. What if she becomes one of those people who doesn't really like routine? What if she's more like him in that regard, and you're not honoring that she might show up in a way or need things that allow more flexibility because she's coming from her father. And if her father's like that, there's a chance that she could be more like her father. There's not one way to be successful as a child. I think you can just honor that there's not this isn't black and white. Just have a mindset around that. Then you can have a conversation with your child to say, hey, you know, there's multiple ways to navigate this world. There's multiple ways to solve problems. And there's multiple perspectives out there, and that's okay. And not disrespecting the other parent, not being rude because you don't agree. It's okay. I don't understand that. That's not my life. Ask your father more about that for sure. You know, all I know is that your father loves you, or that, you know, getting to the core of whatever it is. Islam, they practice, you know, they have beautiful messages and things like that. And that's really great. I don't get it. It's not my thing, but I can respect it. And hopefully that will be modeling to your child how to navigate in this bigger world where, you know, it's important to be respectful of other people's faiths. I hope that answers your question though. But again, not a therapist for children. But I hope that I'm modeling for my son, hey, it's okay to have differences, and that's the world we're in, and you get to see it sooner. You get to learn that lesson sooner. Okay, and then I just want to make sure.
Thanks for letting me jump in.
Yeah, please. No, I
Can
appreciate that.
I add something really quick?
Yes, please, Gregory.
So I facilitate some parenting classes, and one thing that we drive home from day one is what's in the best interest of the child, right? And the parents have to come together and realize that may be detrimental to him, and come together and say what's in the best interest, and the importance of getting to know your child and know what his interests are, what he likes, and let's focus on those things to make him, you know, happy young man. How old is your son, by the way?
He is 10.
Okay, good age, good age. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. There's a lot of, I mean, you all have a lot of answers too, for sure. That's why I love that you guys are contributing. You guys take care of our community as well. Co-parenting principles. Here's just some examples. I won't go into all of them just in the interest of time. But again, that theme, we're a team in raising Dior. So we call ourselves Team Dior. So when his stepmom came into the scene, she's like, I'm a part of Team Dior now. And I can get behind that as his mom, right? I'm like, oh, so you love my son, you care for him, you pour into him. I am so grateful for that. I can work with that, right? Also grace for most, as they always say, like there are books on parenting, but you know, we come into this and we're not experts on parenting. And so just extending grace, you know, we're all like having our own lived experience. Being a parent is so hard. I don't think people always capture why it's hard. One of the reasons I think it's so hard is because we're having to reparent ourselves. We might have some things that happen in our own childhood, and we have to reparent that while having these goals of showing up in a certain way for our child. But we're also human. We have emotional immaturities, we have failures, things like that. So just extending grace to yourself as well as to the other co-parent, and trying not to create an environment where you can't make any mistakes, because we're all going to make mistakes. And so, and we just need a safe environment to do that as parents, because that's what's going to happen, right? Empathy for each other, right? And this is about that relationship, that co-parenting relationship. Yes, child is so important but being intentional about this co-parenting relationship, this is going to help you show up for your child. And then assuming positive intent, that was hard. That can be hard sometimes, right? When you've seen a lot of stuff in your relationship that makes it hard to then now shift to assuming positive intent, but that can be very helpful. Compromising, checking your ego. Someone mentioned ego earlier today about how that can be really hard. A lot of self-management. So there's times where I'll have maybe a conversation with my ex, my co-parent, and they might be triggering me in some way, right? Maybe it's bringing up something for me from the past. And And if we can't get past that, if we're then now he's triggered or whatever, now we're going back and forth. If in that moment we can't have a productive conversation, we agree to pause and regroup later. That takes a lot of maturity and self-awareness, but it's doable. It is doable, and that's something I really encourage. Like, plan for the fight, plan for the trigger. When this happens, because we're human, something might happen, right? That we don't like. What is our plan? Okay, we're gonna pause. We're gonna check in. Like, let's call it out. What's going on here? Okay, that's what's happening. Do we think we can get back on track, or do we need to pause and regroup 3 days later after everyone's calmed down? Maybe you haven't had food to eat. Maybe you haven't, had things that you need that make you better at communicating. But just having a plan for it and not being afraid or disappointed when it happens, because it's natural to have disagreement. Accountability, we've talked about that. I don't have to tell you what that is. But holding not only them accountable, but you. Just make sure that is really clear though. And then communication and being thoughtful about communication. Obviously, everyone's like, communication. Well, what does that mean? That's something I talk about with my clients a lot more, but planning for communication. Sometimes we will respond better to a text about a problem. Or let me rephrase that. We'll respond better to being told about a problem during a planned conversation. So if we know we have our weekly check-ins, our monthly check-ins, depending on your child's age, you might not need to check in very often, right? But knowing that problems are going to be brought in discussion, things that we need to discuss will be brought to the table during that check-in feels better for me than getting like a drive-by text. And so if that's something you know about yourself, like, I'm going to be reactive, I'm not going to respond at my best. If I just get this text out of nowhere in the middle of the day, I will respond better if we have like a set time to cover those things. That's something you need to be aware of and try to see if you can work through that. But being really thoughtful, how often are you talking, and then sticking to an agenda if you need to. You'll see a theme of like, I bring a lot of business strategy and like corporate stuff to this because, hey, it's a lot of research, a lot of money went into that research, and it works a lot of the time. But yeah. And then focusing on our child, obviously, respect. Oh, and this one I really want to nail down: recognition. Giving each other recognition for little or big things. That is one that is so huge that I find that co-parents don't tend to do. And it's a lot of time, it's not out of maliciousness, but it's like, well, they were supposed to do that. Like, they should be doing the thing. They should be buying their child a rain jacket or taking them out to help them with their homework or whatever. Like, why should I recognize something that they should be doing, or they don't even do that well, or don't even do that often? And it's because it really, one, if it was done and they did a good job, or at least tried, that is worthy of recognition alone. Like, it doesn't have to be a big gesture, but acknowledging someone's work and what they've done can kind of soften the energy. If someone feels appreciated, people tend to show up better and more consistently. But also, they deserve a little recognition. And I really encourage folks to do that. In fact, in the chat, can you say something can you acknowledge something that your co-parent has done in the last year that you thought was a good thing? It doesn't have to be big. Oh, they showed up on time to pick up our kid. Oh, they packed the lunch that one day. They never do it any other day, but they did pack the lunch that one day, and that was really helpful. I would challenge you. I'm challenging you. Please put something in the chat that your co-parent has done that's been good. All right. I've done a lot of talking. I want to leverage this time first to do more of a group share. You saw a list of principles, and I can go back to that page, but what are some principles you're already practicing? What are some that you, from that list, that you would throw away or keep? Feel free to come off mute or go into the chat. We'll take like 5 responses. Never give up. That's awesome.
You want to pop them back up to get people's juices going?
Yeah, that sounds great.
There we go.
I've heard today that some families are already using accountability, and recognizing when they failed and taking accountability with their child or stepchild. The scheduled one-on-one. That's awesome.
That was my team name, the Knots Boys. We'd be lost at sea without our boys, the Knots. So, just saying.
I love that. I love that. All right. Bye, Kenny. Thanks for joining. Jess, thank you for joining.
Yes, there will be a recording, but it takes a couple days to get it up on the website. But Dieter will send the link out to everybody when it's live.
Thank you all for sharing. But yeah, I don't know if there's a recording. These slides might be shared, so feel free to pick and choose and add things. You guys had some really good ideas earlier too. Things that I'm taking note, like I'm going to add spirituality to the list of values. Thank you, Gregory, for sharing that. Melinda, you said I like to practice self-management more than I currently do. Thank you for owning that. Sometimes I address a situation with the ex immediately and I shouldn't. Oof, been there. Yes, I support you in trying to do that more. I love that. Compromise. Thank you, Cameron. Team name. Let's go. The simple is great.
I love the Lego master because I was not the Lego master.
Not me.
It was super important to have a Lego.
I like watching other people do Legos. I don't necessarily need to be a part of it. Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's see. Let's move on to the next piece.
Jose, you have like little hand radios. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, we have full-on radios that my co-creator.
Co-creator, love that.
And the challenging, we honor it, but the most challenging time has been to eat it when they disagree with my discipline and they want to talk to mom. And the great teamwork though is that we're a team and she knows and she usually backs up exactly what I say, and it's so she sees that we're still co-parenting even if they're not here. But that's something we honor.
That is great. They really get it. They can still play both sides because they have immediate access, but you guys aren't really letting them do that. That's pretty cool.
I definitely find we have found our son trying to, leverage the thing that he assumes we don't talk. It's like, hey, we do talk. You can't hide things from us. He'll say, oh, I left it at my dad's house. Oh, I left it at my mom's house, like in the same day or whatever. It's like, okay, dude, do you know we talk? Like, anyways, logic isn't driving his thinking.
Well, we actually like secretly being like, hey, I told him not to tell dad. So like our kids would think that like it's a secret between us, but really me and Pat no. We're like, hey, I told him I did this, so it's like makes our kids feel like, ooh, mom's let me do this, or ooh, dad's let me do that, but we both know. We're just secretly making them feel like they have like, here's your cookie, don't tell dad, Dad's like, where's my cookie? Be like, don't tell Max, but I gave it to him.
Try to have them work together
against us,
instead of each other.
I love that.
We really do, though.
Yes. And then as far as parenting plan, I encourage people to leverage those principles as they're making their parenting plan or if they're making any changes to it. But I'm sure many of you know a parenting plan, maps out the logistics of the parenting, like what's, the days, the time, the holidays, things like that. But yeah, my whole heart around this is just trying to get ahead. And the parenting plan is supposed to do this as well, but like getting ahead of things that we know could be challenging or need coordination around. And by that, I mean, just spending some time thinking, like, what do I anticipate are the common issues based off of what we've experienced and, other resources, and then coming up with a plan for how to manage it. And then being okay with, hey, as much as we plan for things, it's not always going to shake out the same way, and just having grace for yourself and the other co-parent, and and pivoting back to the plan as much as you can.
Before you go on, Stephen,
Mhm.
did you still have a question or a thought? Or did we lose you?
Oh, can you hear me?
There you go. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, real quick. I just had a hilarious co-parenting. This kind of goes along with the backing each other up that Jose was speaking to. Me and my son's mom do really well with that. And she was telling me the other day that he told his mom and said at her house, I'm the boss of everybody except for my dad. And so I had to have a conversation with him like, listen, buddy, we don't talk like that at mom's. And when you're at mom's, mom's the boss. So it was pretty funny.
And tell everybody how old this little dude is.
Oh, he just turned 4.
That's perfect. I love it.
I love that you showed that support in your household, and probably built more trust with your child across the households, right? And safety, a feeling of safety, since you guys are aligned. So that's really great. That is really great. And then we talked about this a little bit before, but having routine meetings, just like in the corporate world, if you don't meet about it or talk about it, or have some intentional time to manage the thing, whatever it is at work anyways, it probably won't get done, or things can creep up, issues can creep up, and they might stay under the surface without being addressed. So I do really encourage routine meetings. And if you have it on the calendar, you don't have to feel like you have to ask permission for the meeting, like depending on where you're at in your co-parenting dynamic. But like if you guys agreed on it, like once a quarter, once a week, once a month, whatever it is, 30 minutes, we'll stick to these topics. Then when something does creep up, you have that like time, devoted, and like kind of permission, if you will, to bring up challenges. And what have you. But it's good to talk about, what's going on at school, what's going on with their health, their routines, home transitions, things like that. How can we make our transitions from home to home better? How can I show up better as a co-parent to you? Now that's real brave, like depending on what your dynamic is, but asking the other parent, like, hey, how are we doing? Could we be doing something better? I noticed that we didn't ever finish that conversation, or that we tend to not ever schedule certain healthcare appointments. And I don't know, whatever it is, at least now you're making sure to check in about it.
So Sydney, we have a lot of folks that are really positively resonating with your team idea. So I mean, you're sort of pounding on that, and so that's great. And I'm thinking about the professionals that are in this room around what we can do as a system of care that surrounds families, and helping them reestablish a team, strengthen a team. And with our more marginalized dads and our families that have had high stress, that are trying to make that reconnection, that's on all of us, right? That we're really thinking about the team and not just the one parent that we're working with.
Right.
And this may not be in your wheelhouse to comment on. If it is, please do. But I just want to say that out loud, because I think in a lot of our systems where we have a primary parent and a secondary parent, we don't think about them as much as a team. So I just want to put your comments in that context, because I think that's really an important part of the healing that as a community, we could be helping lift up co-parenting. And this is just a great concept that I think people can take it and really apply it in their day jobs.
Yes, thank you for providing that lens. Yeah, I think if you learn nothing else from today, encouraging your families to think about each other as teammates, because again, we've seen it, we witnessed it, we get it. And the example I like to use a lot is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen from the Chicago Bulls, and how it was documented that they don't get along, and yet look at how many championship rings they got. So they didn't get along, but yet they could get back on track and like have the vision. We're trying to get these championship rings. We're trying to raise this happy whole child. Let's compartmentalize. I think people would say compartmentalize as a bad thing, but I think in this case it can be pretty good. Like, I'm still mad at you for all these things and I'm hurt, but when we're talking about our child, I'm just here and we're just talking about our child. But then as soon as that meeting's over, I'm gonna go vent if I need to and be like, oh my God, you won't believe this. And so, but just separating that out. Okay, I'm gonna, for those who need a little bit of a break, or those who have some more questions, this is a great time for Q&A.
Just a comment, Jeremiah, do you want to just say that one out loud? Because I think one of the other things we know about non-cohabitating families is that it improves, it reduces stress and improves outcomes for both parents. And I think a lot of times people hear fatherhood and they think, oh, it's all about dads. No, it's not. It's about families and about children. And so, Jeremiah, I think you're really underscoring that nicely in your comment. Do you want to share it?
Sure. This is one of the protective factors is just being able to have some self-care for yourself. You know, if you're the primary caregiver, you need to have some time for yourself sometimes just to really kind of regroup, reflect, and, you know, really come back stronger for your kids. And you need to reach out to the other parents and say, hey, I need a break. Can you fill in for a while? You know, I know this isn't your normal time, but I need some time for myself so I can be a better parent. And it's not a bad thing to ask. It's part of being the team is giving each other's grace and time to heal and recoup because parenting's hard. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and I think the part of the work around the fatherhood lens is helping moms understand that having a peaceful co-parenting relationship is going to really reduce the stress in your life, improve the outcomes for yourself, but for your child. And I'm not sure we talk about that very much either. So, and
Also, they
Jeremy,
were resentful.
your part is your comment is a big part of that, I think.
And I wanted to say, based off a comment that was shared, thank you. Would you consider a meeting over email to be as valid as like a routine meeting? And I just want to say, like, it's kind of like a DIY thing, right? Like, if you know that it's better for y'all to interact over email for some reason, like, that's fine. Or maybe it's just a quick text check-in, like, hey, now it's your turn with our son. Just FYI, he like threw up because of whatever. Like, I don't know. You can share like some quick updates, things about health, school, maybe temperament, like emotional temperament, things like that, and logistical things. But I think that's fine. Some folks just don't feel comfortable talking over the phone with their person for, valid reasons. And so, yeah, take this and apply it as you will, because obviously it's really personal to your specific experience.
I think also, Sydney, some of those triggers can be taken out when you use text message, like the triggers of like maybe a person's tone or their cadence in their speech, so when you have text message, you can internalize it more to your liking,
Yes. Yes, exactly. Agree. Thank you.
It could be the opposite though. I'm gonna add that in there, like overthinking that text message. But earlier, I thought of a great idea. How you guys were talking about triggers and like doing a text like that would just you'd rather do it in person. Like to send an email saying, "Hey, I want to talk about these subjects," knowing it's gonna be a trigger, so you're prepared not to attack. Does that make sense? When you guys finally get together, I thought that was a really good idea. I thought. Does that make any sense?
Thank you. No, thank you. No, I totally get it.
Steven, you had a thought?
Yeah, I just have a share to give some context and maybe helpful for some folks. Like, when me and my son's mom split, it was very adversarial. It was not good. We co-parent very well now, but like because of all of that, like we don't talk on the phone. We like unless it's an emergency or we can't get a hold of one another. All of our communication is through text, and that works really well for us. We also and so this is just highlighting what Sydney said about, it's going to look different. It's like DIY, right? You have to figure out what's going to work best for you and your co-parenting relationship, right? This way that we communicate works very well for us, as well as on transfer days. We might do little updates here and there like between days, but like typically most updates are like day of transfer. So that morning, I will text message my son's mom and say, hey, he slept from this time to this time, he's eating, here's how his temperament is, things of that nature. And that system works really well for us. And then so just to give folks context. And then I think the other thing too that has been really good for me to embrace, and just encouraging folks to think about. And similar to what Sydney was speaking to, is like, I've learned something, like for me, in terms of like letting my ego aside and realizing that, you know, my son does have a good stepdad, and looks to him as a second dad, right? And for me, that's allowed me to learn that, you know, family can look so different, right? Family, and but now I do look at them as my family, right? We're a team working for this child, and so family can look, you know, many different ways, and so I think embracing that can be helpful.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to double down on what you weren't getting at this, but it reminded me that everyone's goals are going to be different. And that's okay. Your goal might be to get to parallel parenting. And that's totally okay. Everyone's goal does not need to be, we're going to go on like blended family vacations. Like that doesn't have to be your goal. Your goal could be like, hey, we had a hard conversation and I have a self-care plan, you know? So as much as I'm like kind of giving this like North Star and this would be so perfect and all of that, like, please know that, you know, your goals can be different based off of what you guys are experiencing and what phase you're in, right? Like even Stephen was acknowledging, like when it started, it was here. And now we've had some time, maybe some healing and things like that. And now we're over here. And so you might need different things at different times for sure.
Super. Just a quick insertion here. Dieter's putting our feedback survey in the chat. Please take a moment to share your thoughts about this session and other sessions that you would like to see, and let us know how this is working for you. That really helps us. And then just remember that Sydney's going to be back with us next month to do a conversation about collaborative divorce, which is really a positive shift in the culture of family court. And so hopefully lots of folks will be back for that conversation. All right, resource 6.
Yes, we're only like 2 more slides here. But resources, this is, step 6. Leverage your resources, leverage your community, leverage even this community, right? There's coaching, there's your family, there's therapy. I have a podcast, there's many podcasts on, that's an exaggeration. There's a good handful of podcasts on co-parenting. There's good books. One of the books that I like was written by Mashonda. I'm gonna have to type her last name, I don't want to butcher it, but she's the ex-wife of Swiss Beats. And her son's stepmom is Alicia Keys. Maybe you know Alicia Keys. But anyways, they had a very contentious dynamic with really hard interviews talking about infidelity and things like that. And now they've come to this place of very great co-parenting. She's very authentic in where she was failing in the co-parenting in the book. And she also references like, you know, really good research. So I like that book. Again, it's called Blended. And but lean on your community. I hope to offer more community-based events and things like that for co-parents, because it is hard and sometimes we just need someone who gets it, and just to vent or maybe even learn. So yes.
Yeah, and putting the fatherhood sort of mantle on that comment about, you know, coming together. We just completed a study of how fathers are doing in Washington, and we asked them, do you have people to talk to and places to go where you feel like you can let it out, you know, where you can connect, where you have somebody that looks like me, that sounds like me, that's been through what I've been through. And only 38% of men said they did have anyone to turn to, that they're really going it alone. So please think about that as a provider. What are you doing to help create informal networks? And then I think the other really sad and damning bit of data out of that survey was also about only 41% of dads said they feel like they belong in their community. That's a really sad statement. So we have a lot of stereotypes around fathering that dads don't feel like they really belong at the table. So what are we doing to change that narrative, and how are we thinking about it in terms of the whole family is just words until we do something differently to embrace the whole family, and supporting dads uniquely and purposefully and intentionally really speaks to what you're talking about, Sydney, because dads will say, I don't really feel like there's a place I can go or someone I can talk to. So we have to create those places and create that welcoming space And yes, Swan, you guys are kicking in Kitsap County. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Good things are happening in different places, absolutely. But putting together an informal dads group that is about informal mentoring and a place to vent with people that understand, you know, a safe place to say what you want to say, social connection, fun time with your kids. That is really, really important. And it's not really recognized by like best practice standards yet. I think we're headed there, but we've got huge gaps where it just doesn't exist. We've got great fatherhood programs, and then they end. And then dads say, but now I'm just back out there on my own again. So speaking to the professionals in the room, what can we do together to help build community around fathers in families? And co-parenting, guarantee that's going to be on the top of the list. Thank you for letting me do that little promo in there, Sydney.
Oh, of course, this is a conversation. I like what Annette said about starting dad groups, and Juan, that's awesome that you have a father's group. Let's see. One thing that's the next iterative of like X's and babies. I really want to get to the point where we are tackling more systemic things. Like, for example, with schools, even forms. I was really excited to see a form. My son, we're applying for Rainer Scholars, and they had a part where it's like, hey, does he live in more than one home? Like, let's learn about the other home. And I was like, yes, like that's so great. That they just knew to ask that question, then the form morphed to fit my needs, my family's needs, right? But one of the things that we do with our son's teachers each year, because he gets a new teacher each year, we send an email out in the beginning of the year to say, hey, like, these are all the people you need to be CCing on every email. Put his dad on there, put his stepmom on there. Like, we were a blended family. We were all there to support him. Please engage all of us. And so my goal would be for teachers to proactively ask, like, you know, what is your family makeup? How do we interact and keep everyone in connection? But yeah, that is my next goal, is to see where we can help schools be more thoughtful about these different types of families and other systems out there.
Well, and such a proactive stance that parents are teaching systems what they need.
Yeah.
And that's super important. Y'all need to be advocates and partner with folks to say, this doesn't even really make sense for our family. Can you help change this?
Right.
Yeah, that's a really important issue, because it is going to take all of us. It really is going to take a collective voice, and that means that lived experience is incredibly powerful.
I will use the co-parent card all day. I will use the blended family card any chance I get. I hope you all do the same. Hey, I need you to accommodate our family. This is how our family works. So please continue to advocate for yourself and your folks. And then this is the last slide. You know, what's one thing, please come off mute, please put in the chat, like, what's one thing you've learned today that you will implement in 2025, whether it's with your clients, bringing it up to them, or into your own personal co-parenting life?
That list.
Okay.
How you guys had a list of what your goals for your children. That was beautiful.
Something I learned is that there's a lot of us with a lot of commonalities that brought us to this session. So I've learned that to just trust that, you know, people are not alone, and we all have a lot of things to learn from each other.
A lot today too.
I learned to keep an open mind and keep that learner's mindset as I'm growing and what I'm doing. I can't never know enough. I'm just always trying to learn something different every day.
I love that. I see encourage collaboration and child-centered care. Love that. That's awesome. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing that their partner always makes sure that they're included. I love hearing that. Co-parenting team name. Highly encourage it. Awesome. Ooh. Someone's gonna schedule a meeting. Love it. Yes, yes. Definitely norming, storming, conforming, like any change management, you know, when you break up, the beginning usually is hard. Again, not a lot of resources or information or examples of how to co-parent. I'm hoping to change that. But it can be really scary. You have all these other emotions going on. And so it definitely can start off rocky, but it can stabilize, even if that means, you know, because again, I do recognize there's different folks. There's even folks who are dealing with, you know, domestic violence and things. So I want to be mindful of that. But you know, even if that shift is like having your own boundaries or ways to keep yourself safe, but there's different things that we can take on to improve it. Yeah.
One of the things you talked about at the beginning, Sydney, around why is it so hard? And I was reflecting on happiness data that we collect in different cultures and different purposes, but one of them looks at over your lifespan, when are people the most happy and when are people the least happy? And the period of parenting is the least happy period in our lifespan. And you know, and that doesn't mean we don't love our children. It doesn't mean that they don't bring us incredible joy and happiness and value, you know, and our persona is very similar for men and women, that our identity is tied to our parenting, but it's hard and it's stressful. And we have often different parenting styles that we have to reconcile in that relationship. And so it is the least happy time in our lives because they push our buttons and it's hard on our relationships. So, and when we add breakup and all of the things that you talked about at the beginning to that, to that equation, you can, you know, it makes it really clear. And I also just want to say thank you to the other states who've joined us today and our partners at the federal level. We're really excited to have people with us that are on this same journey. Ohio, I've seen several states that have popped in and folks at HHS that have popped in. Spread the word. We're certainly available to anybody because it's virtual and it brings a richer conversation when we share. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for joining us. That laughter of a child is worth it. Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? That little baby giggle is just infectious, right? That little toddler, when she's not being a teenager, yep, she's a kick in the butt. When she puts her hands on her hips, watch out. But the rest of the time, it brings you such joy. And then we do have a couple, I was just going to say that. Oh, thank you, Parent Trust, for jumping in. We have a couple professional parent family helplines. Do you want to talk about the Parent Trust one? And is Nathan still here? Yeah, why don't you guys both just do a quick promo for what you guys offer?
So we are a state provided statewide helpline, and it's any topic relating to parenting and children. And we have a lot of dads call us for help navigating court orders, parenting plans, co-parenting, and we are not co-parenting, you know, certified coaches. We aren't lawyers, but we do listen and we do help problem solve and make a plan and connect them. So we love to hear about more dads groups, please. Because, you know, we get callers from TWISP and from Berry County and, you know, all over the state, and finding out ways that they can be supported that's one of the good things of coming to this series. Also, I mean, it's a minor thing, but just to find out more dads groups.
Yeah. Dieter, could you do me a favor? Could you pop a link to our map while Nathan's talking about the perinatal
Oh,
support?
I do have that.
I'm just letting people know that based
Oh,
on your
okay. Yeah,
comment,
yeah.
that there is a resource for you on the Washington Fatherhood Council website
Yeah.
that we have collected. You know, it's a small number of father-friendly resources across the state, but it's super helpful. So Nathan, do you want to go? And then we'll thank Sydney for this amazing hour and a half with her.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, thank you so much for this wonderful time. The presentation has been really helpful for me and my work. So I'm Nathan. I'm the dad specialist at Perinatal Support Washington. So Perinatal Support Washington is a statewide mental health nonprofit that supports parents at any point in the parenting journey, from conception and fertility issues through pregnancy, miscarriage, loss of a child, birth, and then up to 2 years of age. So we support parents in that period. And we really focus on peer mental health support. And so we have a warm line, which is live answered Monday through Friday during business hours, and then is a callback service if folks reach out to us after hours, either by text, email, or phone call. And parents who reach out to that line get matched with a peer volunteer, so a fellow parent who has been through a tough time themselves in the perinatal period. And if there are dads who call in, then they get matched with me. So I'm on call to work with dads or non-birthing partners who reach out to our warm line. So I offer one-on-one peer support from one dad to another. And then I also run a weekly new dad support group that is a statewide support group. So it's run virtually, and we get dads from Vancouver to Bellingham and from Seattle to Spokane and all places in between. So we're definitely a resource for fathers specifically, and many of whom are navigating co-parenting relationships and navigating, as I think future webinars will be about, navigating kind of dissolution of relationships as well during the early years of parenting.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
Thank you both. So Parent Trust is a nonprofit. I think that's what you're asking, Kyle. And yes, she put her phone number in the chat, Gregory. And then Nathan, if you could do the same. Oh, you so that we can direct people to you. So 2 really great resources. I know there's lots of other great resources in this room, but those are 2 that just popped up in my mind because they have helplines that reach statewide. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Sydney. And we're looking forward to talking about collaborative divorce. I will just leave you all with a story that is a groaner, I'm sorry to say, but I have 30-something kids and grandbabies, which is a joy, absolute joy. And I have to say, on the happiness continuum, grandparenting, that's it, man. That's the sweet spot. Being a grandparent is the coolest thing ever. But at one of my son-in-law's birthday parties, I met this 30-something young attorney, and I asked her what field, and she said family law. And I said, ooh, that's tough. You're in the middle of people's sadness and people's endings. And she said, oh no, I love it. And I said, well, what do you like about it? She goes, oh, I just love getting in there and getting everything I can for my client. And I said, gosh, that's pretty hard on the kids, right? And she goes, well, I don't care. I don't have kids. So this is the young attorney corps that the culture has not shifted. I was hoping that maybe we were a little more enlightened as we were training people to be in this field and thinking about it more holistically so that we can heal our communities. But that was a shocker. And so that's my teaser to say it really matters what that court process looks like and what those court players believe in terms of their goals. So please do come back and join us. Please do fill out the survey. Kyle, if you want to reach out to me afterwards, I'm happy to chat with you. And please register for the next one and come back and join us. And thank you, Sydney. This was wonderful. Lots of love and good ideas coming to you in the chat about your comments and your energy. And just thank you for sharing your story. It's always so powerful to hear success stories from folks who are working hard and making it work.
Awesome. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. And Sydney, if you want to stay on for a minute,
Yes.
yeah, okay, if you want to. Dieter's got the survey stuff that he can share.
Sorry, I'm just screenshotting right now to get all the information.
Ms. Stone, I want to say thank you for your comments. They were very, very heavy. I don't hear a lot of people bring up the things that you brought up. So thank you for that very much.
Are you talking to Sydney or me?
You, Miss
Oh,
Stone. Yes.
oh, yeah, I'd love to learn more about what you're up to. If you put your email in the chat, it would be nice to connect outside of this session.
Definitely.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. I'll reach out.
All right, Miss Stone. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
You too.
I do have one question, if it's okay.
Can you put it in the chat and we'll reach back out to you, because we got to shift gears here. We're past.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great. Thanks, Annette. Thanks for